So many of you will remember that in April of this year, right in the midst of the stay-at-home orders across the nation, Lady Gaga did a cover song of a Charlie Chaplin song called Smile. And the whole campaign was Smile at Home Together. And there were a lot of celebrities that joined this, but we focused on Lady Gaga, the self-proclaimed queen of pop. And I told you that there was something very sinister about that song. We decoded it on the other channel. Now, these were the beginnings of the discovery that we made about the smiling eclipses. We had all those revelations hit us right about this time, and Lady Gaga with her prison bar pants on, which looked just like prison bars, was talking about all of us being at home together and having her permission to smile. Now, for those of you that are just joining the show this morning, we did switch things up a little bit. I was planning on going live with something else, but I decoded the Joker yesterday, and what I found were jaw-dropping, stunning revelations, and I had to share that with you today because it's current information. So back to this, one world together at home. Okay, so again, Lady Gaga, we made all of these discoveries. The 8-pointed star, we compared it to an Eddie Murphy movie, and we saw the 8-pointed star, which is basically, it means something very bad and evil, right? And of course she had that on display, but I had not seen the Joker film yet. And many of you have asked me to watch it, and I was just putting it off. One, because I don't like the actor who plays the Joker, and two, it just looked dumb. But now, with all of this stuff we're discovering about the smiley face and the clown, I was like, I need to look at the Joker, and I'm glad that I did. So, what is going on with this smiling eclipse? Well, the smile is not good, you guys. If you haven't figured that out by now, it's coded meaning for spam-demic. And Gaga was referring to Chaplin's appearance in the film The Joker. This is what I believe she was referencing when she did this cover song, this Charlie Chaplin cover song. I believe she was foreshadowing the civil unrest that would happen months later as a result of the CV and the world-famous GMF wrongful death, right? It all appears in the film The Joker, right down to the smiley face, the white-faced masked protesters revolting against the police and the elite, Charlie Chaplin's in the film, people in quarantine, small business closures. You can't make this up. And thanks to you guys, I finally got around to decoding The Joker, which, by the way, released with 88 days left in the year 2019. So here we are, Back to the Future, again, with the 10-4, October 4th, the release date of The Joker. Now let's watch this montage that I put together, and I'll premiere this montage just by itself, probably tonight, for those of you that want just the montage. But a lot of you asked me to do these live shows to dig a little bit deeper into the montage, because sometimes the montages are just too quick and it goes over a lot of people's heads. So that's what we're doing right now. We're going to break this montage down. Again, it'll premiere tonight for those of you that want to share it. So let's pull this up. This is crazy. Okay, there you guys are. Everybody's in the house. Jody never saw The Joker. Well, you're going to see the most important parts of it right now this morning. Good morning. I'm all out of bubblegum. Nazca, Bill Smith, Chameleons, Charisse Furf. Thanks everybody for coming to the show. Share this video. This video will be one of those ones that does come under attack just because of the nature of the information that we're going to share with you guys. Let's get started. So as I said, The Joker released with 88 days remaining in 2019. These dates are very important. There's a release date, October 4th. This is a very important date. I believe this was Obama's anniversary, I believe. And of course, there's the Back to the Future connection. You have to reach 88 miles an hour to jump through time. The day of time travel was October 21st, which is the date of the Real ID. It's been pushed back to 2021. And they jumped through at exactly 10:04. So 10:04 is a time on a clock, but it's also a calendar date, October 4th. They're interchangeable, time and space. Now, I want you to listen very carefully. I tried to get a good, clean recording of some of these clips because it's in the background newscast that he's listening to on the television, where we get the clues as to what they had in store for us going back to 2019. Watch and listen.
This is starting to affect my business when customers can't get in here because of the garbage situation.
Customers can't get in here because of the garbage situation. That's the situation because it's garbage. Everything must go.
City services have been affected and some businesses have decided to remain closed.
Some businesses have decided to remain closed.
Amid the unrest.
The idea of the National Guard moving in and cleaning up is a good idea.
National Guard.
Put them in a room, let them sit there and talk till they get it over with.
Put them in a room, let them sit there and talk to each other until it's over with. That's your quarantine.
24 hours, 48 hours.
24 hours, 48 hours, however long it takes.
How long it takes.
Protesters, many dressed as clowns, took to the streets today in one of several planned demonstrations taking on the city's elite. The anger and resentment that's been building in the city for weeks seems close to exploding.
Now, it's important to note that these protesters are in whiteface. Everything they do is in mirrors. They are in whiteface. Think of the opposite of what that would be. I can't say it, but you guys know. You're smart. And for those that don't know, please help them in the chat. The opposite of whiteface. Now they slipped in this little caricature of Trump. Okay, don't feel bad for Trump. This is all part of the plan. Trump is the Joker. He's the one under which all of this went down. They want this to happen because it's chaos. And through chaos, they gain power. The elite gain power. Okay, because they have the technology to enforce and crack down on all of this. They're basically drawing out anything they can. They're drawing out the non-compliance so they can crush them. That's what's happening right now. And the best thing you could do is stay out of the way. It's okay to probably go out here and voice your opinion, but do not be involved in the crime element of this. That's only going to draw you out. That's exactly what they want. And what they're also trying to do is lump all of the peaceful people in with the non-peaceful people. And then at that point, they can start enacting draconian measures, right? Across the board, instead of fixing the real problem, which is policing and how it's done, and the main purpose of policing, which is collecting revenue, not about the public safety. They don't want to fix that part of it because they know that many of these cities will be bankrupted because they've basically invested all of this money into the police departments that are gaining revenues for them, and it's their crutch. Once that crutch goes away, all this inflated bureaucracy of many of these cities, which most cities have inflated bureaucracies, they'll go bankrupt. One town in particular, one city that I grew up in, Stockton, California, they federalized their police force. So if you think that can't happen, they just did it. They also did it in a town in Wisconsin. Some of the first cities in the United States to ever to have a federalized police force. Now, how were they able to do that in Stockton, California? They were able to do it because the police department went quote-unquote broke. But I believe it was a more strategic reason. I believe it was a proving grounds or a test grounds for what they could get away with and implementing their tactics, right? I'll never forget. I was at my mom's a couple of years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, and we drove literally a block from our house on Tam O'Shanter. Many of you'll know that. It's off Hammer Lane. We saw a drug raid going on, and there were the military in fatigues with big self-defense weapons, and they were basically running a raid. There were like 20 of these guys in green. And I was trying to explain to my mom how shocking that was, and she just didn't get it. She was like, "Oh, that's good. We need to crack the..." I go, "You don't understand, Mom. These are the feds." And I believe, Stockton's a port city. It's one of the first ports that begin to distribute things. It's a hub of sorts that distribute things all throughout California, up and down the state. There's the Delta is right there, and 2 rivers come in, American River and Sacramento River, and they can ship goods up and down the valley. And so it's a very strategic location. So it would make sense that that's the kind of place where they would federalize the police, right? That's exactly what they did. So I'm telling you this because so you can understand that both of these sides are working together. Their only goal is to maintain their power. And if they have to work together to do it, they will. And they have. All since the beginning of this founding of this country. Let's keep watching. Now, here's your Charlie Chaplin angle, right? And again, I had not seen this film until yesterday. But yet, Lady Gaga was singing All at Home Together back, in April. Months after this film released. Just before all this stuff went down, right? All this unrest. But yet, here it is. Here's Charlie Chaplin, right? Now, this was October 4, 2019.
Though your heart is aching,
smile even though it's aching.
Smile even though it's breaking.
I feel very honored to be a part of the World Health Organization and global citizen in the fight against COVID-19 and raising money for the Solidarity Response Fund.
When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by.
So, obviously, her pants look like prison bars. They knew exactly what they were telling everyone to do. Self-quarantine, stay in your homes. And now the clip of Charlie Chaplin, that was actually Nat King Cole singing the song by Charlie Chaplin, Smile. That did not appear in the movie. I montaged that into this. But what did appear in the movie is Mr. Joker himself walking into a Charlie Chaplin film. Again, they were not singing Smile in the film, but he walks into the Charlie Chaplin film, and a little bit of the backdrop of how the film, The Joker, basically plays out. He's a clown, right? He starts out as a clown, but he's like a mentally ill clown. And the world is in chaos. I believe this is set in like the late 70s, maybe 80s. The world's in chaos, and there's a lot of unrest, and this takes place in Gotham City. And basically, through hardships and him getting beat down by the system and loss and lies in his life, he decides to, basically has no other choice than to resort to justice and crime. Okay? So that's how this plays out. And basically the whole film is just this gradual decline of the character of the Joker. And this is what causes him to become the Joker. And in the end, he ends up performing an act of violence on live television. And then he's basically ends up basically out in the streets in the police car. Someone rescues him, and all of these clowns, he gathers this, he basically commands this following of clowns. The clowns become the catalyst for change. In whiteface, they're running around basically taking out elite people and corporations and basically everything that we're experiencing right now. But it's all mirror opposites, right? Different colors is what they are trying to tag this on. But basically, the people in the clown masks make it a joke because the elite call them clowns, and they're all wearing their masks. You see the similarities with this. Do you see the metaphors with this? Let's keep going. So all of this plugs right into the eclipse that kicked all of this off. December 26th, the day after Apollo's birthday. And you're going to see Apollo references in this film as well.
You'll get by.
So that's the eclipse. It's the smiley face eclipse, well established on this channel. This marked the beginning, December 26, 2019. It was the very day they actually named and identified the CV. It basically was the start in China of the spam. And you see underneath that this eclipse goes right underneath China. Smiley face is spamdemic.
I care so much about all of the medical workers that are putting their lives at risk for us right now. And I'm also thinking of all of you that are at home who are wondering when this is all going to be different. What I'd like to do tonight is just give you the permission to smile though your heart is breaking.
Now, obviously, clowns smile, but were you expecting to see a smiley face in this film? So, this dovetails into everything we've been talking about. How they basically were giving us little clues all the way back to the Super Bowl in February, when we only had like 10 cases in the entire U.S. And there were smiley faces all over the Super Bowl halftime show, behind J-Lo, in the dancers, in the stage, right? And there it appears in the Joker.
Smile, smile.
Here he draws the smiley face in ashes of the butt of the cigarette. Fire.
Seeing as how you're my boy, and
that makes a lot of sense.
You know what I mean?
Thank you, Nigel.
Smile though your heart is breaking.
Stable condition at Gotham Metropolitan.
And there's the happy face on the mirror. Because remember, why would they draw this on the mirror? Well, the mirror is opposites, right? So the clowns are really the people doing this right now. Because it's all opposites, right? White. You see what I'm saying? I can't really go into detail. But those of you in the chat know what I'm trying to tell you without saying it, right? Think about what they're making fun of right here. And how insidious this is and evil. So basically, originally this all started out with him basically taking out these three rich guys on the subway, and he had to do that because they basically attacked him. They started beating him up, and he had a self-defense mechanism with him, and he basically took out these three rich guys on the subway, right? This is what kicked this whole thing off. And then what happened is he was in his clown suit, right? And so there was a witness that said it was a clown that did it. And this was what sparked off the whole movement. It sparked off this whole movement of clowns. So then all of a sudden in the film, everybody starts wearing clown masks. See how this works? Do you see the similarities now of what's happening right now? Because of a guy being taken out, it sparked off everything. Now, this was manufactured, It was all manufactured, I believe. But here it is in the film before it happened. But in a mirror form of it, a mirror version of it. So this guy, the cop walks through the subway and he's chasing the Joker. And he's telling everyone, masks off, so he can have facial recognition. Are you starting to understand now? Remember, we just talked about this in another film we watched that was filmed before all this happened too. That was the film called Proximity, where they're walking on the train. And everyone has what? Masks on. It's the same thing. It's the same thing repeated over and over again. The cops chasing him on a subway. The robot cops are chasing them on a train in the film Proximity. And they're all wearing masks. Wow, right? And they're telling them, take their masks off. It's the same thing. Now, I just got chills because I didn't even plan on talking about that. It just popped into my head. Let's keep going. So, this is WLM movement, I guess you can call it, which is the opposite of what's happening now. Unbelievable.
There are riots out there. 2 policemen are in critical condition. You're laughing. You're laughing.
So this is just after he gets arrested for committing the act on live TV. Basically takes out Robert De Niro with a self-defense mechanism. And then he's in the back of the police car going to jail, and they show the landscape. And this is everything that's happening right now. We went into a time loop from this film. Now, how they were able to orchestrate this, they do it with provocateurs, but I think a lot of this is a spiritual manifestation. I think that it's just kind of creepy, isn't it? It's kind of creepy how we keep finding this stuff in films. Now, I want you to watch, because the signage is very important in these films. They're placed there strategically. Sometimes they're CGI'd in, but oftentimes they'll just manifest spiritually. Watch. So they keep going by the ace in the hole. So I'm like, what's the ace in the hole? Well, that's the trump card, which we all know is the Joker card as well. Now, I'm not going to argue this point with people. And pretty much when people say that's ridiculous, they're going to get blocked and deleted, because we already established that with 2 minutes of research, you can understand that the Joker is the trump card of the deck, and it is the ace in the hole. So, to draw conclusions and comparisons between Trump and the Joker, it's not a stretch at all. It's actually pretty easy to do. Ace in the hole. So just like in what's happening right now, the Joker and all of his white-faced clowns overcome the police. There's a tipping point. The tipping point was actually on the train, because all of those clowns end up beating down the police that were chasing the Joker. And that's pretty much the tipping point. They gain power and control, and it's chaos. Now, you got to watch really closely in these films. I don't think anyone caught this yet. This is a clown, so basically they take this ambulance, they ram it into the police car that the Joker was being taken to jail in. They free the Joker from the police car. And one of the clowns driving the ambulance walks underneath this sign called the Ballinger Department Store. And now, I think this is a fictitious department store. In fact, there's one of the people that helped create the film Her name is Laura Bollinger, so could be what they did here. But what I want you to note is the sunrise. This is Apollo, the sun god, okay? That's what this is really all about. These two lights could represent Gemini, the twins. Trump is a Gemini. And you'll see that the clown walks right underneath it as if he's being crowned by the sun. Now, if you think that's a stretch, it's not, because later the Joker will walk under the very same sign and be crowned by the sunrise. Okay? Watch. See how the camera pans around in the exact same position, and he's crowned. Can't make this up, you guys. And this is the rise of the Joker. So that's the decode for this morning. Let's go into the chat here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Now, I'll never stop decoding these films because they all seem to point to things that haven't happened yet. It's like they're pre-programming us. And believe it or not, subliminally, those people who watched The Joker when it came out were programmed for what is happening right now. It may have even stoked the hate. In fact, if you think about it, there were some subliminal WHITE references in there that could have further angered the people of color after watching the Joker film. You've also got the component of seeing how successful the people were in the film in achieving their goals of overcoming the police. That is a form of pre-programming to embolden and enable people at a later date to follow through with the designed plan. So, it's not a stretch, to think of these things in these terms. A lot of people saw this film. This was a $1 billion film. $1 billion. In fact, the algorithms here on YouTube were very sensitive to this film. I uploaded it once, and I made sure to make all my clips underneath 9 seconds. That's the magic number. If you do clips any longer than 9 seconds, algos pick them up, and you got to get a copyright. So I always make sure and do that. So I look back, and I didn't exceed the 9 seconds, but for some reason, the algos still picked it up. They pick it up because on films like this that are very sensitive, or they know that they've revealed too much, they will copyright you. And I got copyrighted. So I took it down, I re-edited it, and re-uploaded it. So it's all good now. So, yeah, I'm not sure what year the film took place. And it did look kind of like the 80s, but it almost looked a little bit earlier. But maybe it was 1984 that this took place. That would be very interesting. So, let's take a look in the chat here. I didn't want to make this show too long. Now, we've got a couple more shows coming up. Don't give up on me now. We got 2 more shows this week, same time in the morning. One of them is going to be about the temptations of Christ. We said that there was one more that we had not identified yet. We identified all the other temptations. We had looked at the food shortages being like the fasting in the wilderness. We looked at the 40 days he was in the wilderness as 2020, the year we're in now. We looked at the act of worship, taking the knee, and how that compares to now, and turning the stone into bread, which is we looked at the bread baking meme, right, while in quarantine. Well, there was one more that we couldn't quite put our finger on, and that was the devil tempting Jesus to fly on angel's wings by jumping from the top of a building. And then this morning it hit me. So I scheduled a live show. We're going to talk about that. And that is what's going on with the anguish that people are experiencing and wanting to jump from buildings. We're going to look at that on a separate show. So, all of the temptations of Christ are being covered in what we're going through right now with this stay-at-home stuff. Right? Then we got another show. I wanted to talk about how everyone was starting to wake up. Everyone was starting to wake up, and we were all looking around at each other going, this is crazy. Small businesses are taking a hit. They're making people wear these masks. This is all about shaming people. The left talks so much about not shaming people, but yet that's exactly what they did with the masks. And now they're shaming people who won't take the knee. We see all of that going on. It reminds me of Game of Thrones, where Jon Snow, they tried to tell him to take the knee, right? To the queen, the evil dragon queen. She ended up becoming evil at the end, and he wouldn't take the knee. Well, all of this is coming back around, okay? Taking the knee, right? So, we talked about all that. We talked about how antichrist it is, that everything we're going through right now, everything they're asking us to do, all these rituals, ritualistic behavior, the shaming, trying to force us to do things that are against the Bible, okay? You do have a choice. Went into a BJ's the other day. The guy says, "Sir, you need to wear a mask." Like just all rude. It's like, you don't talk to me like that when any other time in history, but all of a sudden now you're going to talk to me like that? I always walk around with a smile on my face because I feel like I have to overcompensate. One of the things that we as black people sometimes do to disarm people's fears about us, right? And so I just very politely said to him, "Look, first I held up my little card, my laminated sign that said that I'm exempt, which I got from Brian, I Unpack Vlogs, I Unpack Flicks website, or his YouTube channel. He made up these little flyers you can print out, so you don't have to do a whole lot of talking. You just show them what looks to be an official document, which it really is. It's communicating your feelings about it." I held that up to him, and he goes, "What's that?" And I go, "I'm medically exempt, and I don't have to tell you why, besides the fact I'm a member here. So how do you want to handle this?" And he goes, "Okay," waved me on, right? Got through with the shopping, was coming out the other side, and as you know, when you go into a BJ's or a Costco, you have to check out. You got to show your receipt. And apparently this individual had talked to the lady on the other side who was doing checkouts, because he was the check-in guy, right? Went to the other side, and he apparently had talked to her, because she said to me, "Well, there was another guy that came in here and said the same thing, and I made him provide his doctor's note." I go, "Look, I don't have to provide anything to you. That's against my HIPAA rights. That's a violation. You could get sued for that." I said, what we all need to do is be nice to each other and respect each other's belief systems, which is what I thought the left was all about. So I walked out, and when you stand up for yourself like that, something changes inside of you. You feel empowered. You don't feel like a victim anymore. And God does provide a way out. It's not like we're being forced to do all this stuff. In your mind, if you feel like you're living in a prison, then you are in a prison. But if you go on about your life the way you're supposed to and do what God said we're able to do, then God will protect you and He'll deliver you through those situations. You just have to take command and control. And you don't have to get violent or mean or rude. You just have to go do it. I hate to say it, but just do it actually works. So, we're going to, I think Friday's show is going to be how this whole awakening that was starting to happen, for a lot of the wrong reasons, but I had some hope because I thought, okay, people are starting to wake up to this mask thing and how the businesses are being affected. And eventually we can help inform these people and help them understand the right-left paradigm, and that even Trump is playing them because he's playing both sides. He signed the national emergency on Friday the 13th, but then ever since then has been pretending like he's against it, when he was the one that enabled the states to do exactly what they did. It's called playing both sides of the coin, right? So people fell into that, and they're going, look, Trump's giving out clues. He doesn't agree with this. Of course he agrees with it, but he has to stay on his side, because that's the right-left paradigm. If you don't pretend like you're opposed to the other side, it'll never work, you see? So that's what Friday's show will be about. We're going to talk about how this whole GMF thing co-opted an awakening that was already starting to happen. It co-opted it, took it over, and turned it into something different. Because they were losing. They were starting to lose. But make no mistake, they got everything they needed to get done. They tested all their little contact tracing and their facial recognition with masks. They got all that tested up. They tracked down all those people that you saw in those videos running through and looting. 99% of them got caught. Make no mistake. Why? Because they tested out their little facial recognition and their contact tracing. Anyone who had a cell phone on them while they were doing what they were doing is probably in jail right now. Okay? And they're getting hit with the entire force of the law. Make no mistake. So, don't take the bait. What saddens me is that the awakening that was starting to happen got derailed, and no pun intended, by this whole GMF thing. And now everybody's talking about race again, right? So, there we go. There was the video of that lady, what's her name? Courtney or something? Now she's the center of attention, right? Notice how everything has to be right or left, black or white. She's a Trump supporter, which I don't agree with, but she's speaking some truth. But those who listen to her, they're just going to go into the Trump camp again. You see how that works? The right-left paradigm. Nothing ever gets solved when you pick a side. You have to stand outside the sides and just speak from common sense. So, back in the chat. Oh, really, Andy? That's interesting. Andy says people in some states have had all the charges dropped. Okay. That'll probably be in those liberal states. And all that does is draw more people. It's a honey trap. It's just going to draw more people into thinking it's okay to do. Or they'll pick and choose the ones they want to prosecute. Yes, Salty saves. Yeah, they're raising money, encouraging the behavior. Yeah. Okay, let's keep reading here. Black potatoes, yes, on a different topic. Really good idea. So many are blinded by this. Absolutely, Lisa. Put all the tech down and go speak to Mother Nature. Go for a walk. Yes, I agree 100%, Jedi Master. But for those of you that are staying on your tech, you definitely want to be aware and awake. %70% of people want mandatory VCs. Wow. And they'll massage those numbers and statistics to try to influence the people who have decided not to. This is what they'll do. Don't fall for it. I won't. Stand your ground. Geez, got some drama going on in the chat. What's going on? A lot of emotions involved in all of this. Gina says, how do I contribute to this channel? I think you already have, Gina. I think you're a channel member, so thank you for that. That helps. You can also download the Brave browser. That helps this channel as well. Thanks, Dr. Savage, for handling whatever was going on in the chat. I think maybe she was being attacked, though, so make sure you check to see who was attacking her and maybe take care of them, too. Trump will step in and save the world. Oh, that's what they'll make it look like. Yes, polls and numbers are lies. I agree, 100% able-bodied. You never want to argue. When you argue, you're in a form of duel. Yes, kings and queens. I agree, Marcy. Whoa, it's going by pretty fast here. I don't know how much time I can stay like this. I want to get near my parents and my country. I agree, Yasmin. That's probably a good idea. Do not let your emotions rule you. Woodward TV has some deeper information. Never heard of Woodward TV. Thanks, Just a Girl. They need this pandemic for the AC to rise. I agree 100%. We're under the Law Act now. Yes, able-bodied. That, when Trump did that on Friday the 13th, it opened up. I need to do a video on that and be very, very specific for people to understand. When a president declares a national emergency, it opens up all of these things that governors can do. And if you don't get that yet, you're still going to be stuck on the right-left paradigm. You're still going to believe it until I spell it out for you. Trump gave the governors the keys for the quarantines, the stay-at-home orders, and everything you're going through right now. How's the Joker happening now? That's pretty funny, Atomic T. I suggest you go back and look at the video that I just decoded. Please check out the Southland Tales. Okay. Project Mayhem. They profess that they know God, but in works they deny Him, being abominant, disobedient, and unto every reprobate. That's a scripture. Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's what's interesting. Here's the final proof that we're not supposed to and are required to, as Christians, to follow a government. The governments are Satanists. That's what they are. Yeah, they might put "In God We Trust" on the dollar bill, but for instance, what we're going through right now is 100% antichrist. It's against everything that Christ taught. He went out amongst the sick. He said, don't be afraid of what they have. The power of healing, the faith, right? Do you think Christ knew something? But yet, almost every single Christian I know followed orders. Did what they were told. Against what the Bible says. Now, there's a lot of religions out there that claim that they will draw a line. That if a government tells them to do something that's against their belief system, that they won't do it. But yet, here we all are, doing exactly the opposite of what the Bible tells us to do. And that's just one example. So there's your proof right there. That this is really all about getting you to turn on God, basically. All right. Yes, they mean Lucifer, Blue. You're absolutely correct. Or they used God's name in vain. What is that? It's one of the 10 Commandments. You're not supposed to do that. When you use God's name and there's nothing behind it, and you're just using it for something, your own needs or selfish needs or to control people, that's called using God's name in vain. You don't want to be caught doing that. And that's exactly what they do when they put that on the dollar bill. Think of the hypocrisy. They talk about a separation of church and state, but yet they use God's name as often as they can to garner support, to keep Christians interested in voting. Trump throws out these little political footballs, like carrying the Bible and walking to the church. The Christian community went nuts over that, right? Oh, look, he's a godly man. No, he's not. If he was, he wouldn't do 3/4 of the things that he's been doing. If he was, he would have took down the elite Geppetto rings. We're still waiting on those sealed indictments. We're still waiting. Presidency is almost over. Oh, he couldn't get it done. He was under too much attack. That's the right-left paradigm lie. It's whispering in your ear. You need to wake up from it. Oh, the left will be worse. That's the right-left paradigm lie. Whispering in your ear. They're both the same. They're both the same. And that's why in Back to the Future, you saw both Hillary Clinton's birthday and you saw October 21st, which is Back to the Future Day. And that's the day that Trump pushed back the Real ID Act on the 21st day of October in 2021. And that's why Trump opened up his, what was it? It was a hotel on Hillary Clinton's birthday. This was before the election. He did like a little speech or like a ribbon cutting in New York. I forget what the name of the hotel was, but he bought it on and did his little thing on her birthday. They're all friends. When are people going to wake up and see this? There's way too many people still stuck in the right-left paradigm. And if for no other reason, this is why I need to keep going, because people need to wake up to this, because you're going to get played every single time. Every time. All right. Let us go back in the chat. Those are good questions, you guys. How long have we been on here? About 45 minutes. This is usually where I like to end the show. You guys share this. Again, the premiere of that short clip that I just decoded will premiere tonight or this afternoon, late afternoon for some of you. So you can pick that up and watch it. Do you think the elites know when Jesus will return? They have a general time frame, much more of a time frame than we do, as the uninformed. When there was a miracle in the Bible, there was a man who's possessed by demons, and Jesus commanded the demons into a herd of pigs. There were 2,000 of those pigs, and they ran off a cliff. But before they did, the demons said to Jesus, "You cannot kill us yet. It is not the appointed time." So both Jesus and the demons knew when their appointed time was. It wasn't then. It wasn't at that point. But what I always thought was interesting about that passage is that it's been 2,000 years since that miracle happened, and there were 2,000 pigs. Was he trying to tell us something? When they jumped off the cliff, they went into a body of water. They entered the house of water or air, Aquarius. We're in Aquarius now. We just stepped into Aquarius within the last decade. I believe this is the earth age in which Christ will return. It could be any day. It could be 5 years. It could be 10 years. But there is an appointed time, and you can kind of feel it because everything's ramping up. We're reaching a point of singularity with technology. Think about how quickly everything's progressed. It's like pointing towards something. If you could extrapolate it all out, right? The disappearance of flesh on earth through technology. If you could extrapolate it out, even within the last 100 years, and compare that to the 3,000 or 4,000 years before that, you will see there's very little progress that's been made in humanity. But for some reason, technology has been ramped up at a record pace, and I believe all of that's because we're approaching a date. We're approaching the return of Christ. So, yes, it does indicate, and they do know in general terms, within 5 to 10 years, when he is coming back. But their main stated goal is to deceive you into not even thinking he's real. Water you down so much that you don't believe anymore. Don't let that happen. All this is real. If for no other reason than everything that I've shown you today and on this channel, everything supports the belief in a real Savior and a real Christ. All of these synchronicities, the spiritual battle raging just underneath the surface of our reality that we talk to you guys about every single day, all of this means something. It's all proof that all this is real. If it wasn't real, why would they spend all this time on this? Why would they create a stay-at-home orders, quarantine situation that mimics the temptations of Christ if Christ wasn't real? Think about that for a second. Think about it. All right. I love each and every one of you. We'll be back on here bright and early tomorrow morning. Take care and be safe, you guys.